Good morning. I am Lovecasting live from the beaches of Huntington Beach, California, and this is your Thursday Namaste Today. Good morning and namaste and welcome to Namaste Today. My name is stepº Witecki. I am a psychic astrologer and the Sensei to Serious Joy, here to stand in my heart and walk in the light. And today I am light walking on the beaches of Huntington Beach, California. And I'm so grateful I came out because I have been stressed, man. The energy is so intense. Part of it's my own transit, but it really is intense. I just want to say, and I need to get back in nature just to kind of ground. So I love the fact that I can do that. Thank you so much for joining me today. We are moving along in the sun in Leo, and we are in Act 3 of our story. I call it the Passion Play. We're here to play out some sort of experience of who we want to be. And we're kind of loading a new experience right now. We're changing characters. In fact, today, I would argue, is the final audition for your Passion Play. And what are you auditioning? You're auditioning a character within yourself that you want to play, that your heart really loves playing. That is, in essence, getting a whole in one, if you will. And we're getting a lot of assistance from the universe to find this. I myself am starting to feel the vortex between Neptune and Jupiter. Jupiter is at step 2 today, and so it's blazing through Virgo, creating what I call the new me-ality. I think in the future it's a me-ality now that we're awake and aware that we manifest our own reality. So it's not a re, it's a me. And I've written about that in my blog. But I've really started to feel the vortex in the sense of just parts of my characters flying out without me asking. And I was like, what is that? You know, you're like, oh my goodness, you know. So it is very revealing, and I'm just sharing with you guys to let you know that, you know, I spend my whole life trying to stay in joy, and right now, even with the universe's intention for us to be in joy, it's not easy. It is not easy, especially right now. And I attribute that a lot to us letting go of the old ego, particularly me, because I have a Leo rising. So any Leos or Leo risings, you're getting rid of an old ego. Whenever we put an old ego down, it fights by nature. That's what it's supposed to do, is fight for its life. And so it's kind of a sophisticated master stroke to let your old ego die, let your new ego be born, and stay calm in that transition, at least for me. So if anyone else is going through that, you know, a lot of us are being reborn, a lot of us are putting ourselves out there in a new way. And if you're not clear on what the ego really is when it comes to the architecture of incarnation, the ego is the part of us that acts on our behalf. So the part of us that acts out, acts stupid, acts nice, okay? But we only tend to attribute it with the act stupid and acts out one, right? Not always the act nice. So all of us, including me, especially because of my nature, but I think because we're being encoded with the new story, a new character in our passion play, we are therefore going to act differently. We're therefore going to be everything is going to change. So without further ado, let's take a look at what my higher self and the planets have to say, as well as my guides. And I'll tell you, it's a lot easier to connect on a beach than it is in a city or something. Okay, thank you for your patience. So a lot's going on. The first thing is really about feeling the love. That's what God, universe wants you to know. That's what God wants you to know, is that it's time to feel him or her. You know, when it comes to spirit, you can use a male or female identity. It doesn't matter, whatever you're more comfortable with. But really, today, step 27 rules the day. And so the power of 7, or seventh heaven, you've heard that term, seventh heaven? Not a coincidence, okay? 7 is when we reach heaven, when we are finally above, step 7 that is, and we can finally connect heaven on earth. Between step 0 and step 7, in anything we do, we feel lost and without God, or we could. I mean, we learn as we master this process to keep spirit with us the entire time. But if you don't, by step 7, you find spirit again. If you don't really move on to step 8, because you can only make the decision, I decide, at step 8, when you have that assured feeling from spirit in step 7. So today we are feeling the spirit. Jupiter's at step 2, so that means I feel. and Jupiter's in Virgo, which is reality. I feel reality. I feel the new reality. I feel the new meality. And it's very much a meality with the sun still in Leo. And it's very much a meality with Venus retrograde calling to our ancient story. All right. So today we are feeling the new meality. Now, if you're like me, the new meality might suck. Just kidding. But no, it's the transition that sucks. This royal Taurus doesn't like so much, these little pains and moments. But I also tried to humble myself and get the city out of the boy and put me back into discomfort just so I can be more flexible in the transition. So I'm trying to remain flexible. But I find as I get older, I don't want to be, but I will be, it's one of those things. I think we have to stay in shape. So we are very much feeling our meality and basically what you are creating right now in your life, right now, your daily rituals, your behavior, what you invest your heart into and what you don't invest your heart into. These things are creating the new meality. Now, just so you know, as a Sensei to Serious Joy, I'll tell you, you're feeling the new meality. You're seeing certain details, but those details don't count. Those are stand-ins for details that will come into your passion play later. So all the details you have, just so you know, they're all stand-ins. They're all stand-in actors. Just like in the Academy Awards, they have a person sit in the seat. Okay, so these are all details that are sitting in the seat while you're accepting your new reward, basically, or award, not reward, award. I hate right? So in essence, don't be attached to detail. That's what is coming through. Be attached to spirit. That's what God is saying. Be attached to spirit. Be connected to higher self. And that's what you attach to when the whole world is changing. Now, you would know that if you were sinking on the Titanic. If the ship was going down, guess who you're attached to? Oh, Lord, please, you know what I mean? Everyone, I don't care, atheists, scientists are Lord Jesus Christ, everyone is on their knees, hoping that, just in case, you know what I mean? And they know in that moment, better attach to spirit. When shift comes to high water, we all know to connect to spirit. But what I'm learning, and I'll tell you a story after this, I'll have a little story after this, I'm learning that, we shouldn't wait until shift comes to high water. That it's not necessary to turn off our GPS, our God positioning service. Okay? So I don't think we should turn off our GPS. I don't think we should turn that off. I think we should always be active. And I'm finding we're being in communion with it. So they're taking me to the moon. Okay. The moon, it's so funny. I think that one of my guides is a stage director, from early 50s television that died or something, because they literally okay, let's wrap it up and moving on. I'm like, what? Who was that? You know what I mean? Who was that? Hemingway up there? So it's the moon is in Scorpio, and today it's at step 4, at least when I run this chart. So funny how I do that. And that means that we really are there is going to be the big shift today. So basically you change planes today emotionally. Now, you might have changed planes 3 days ago. You might have changed plans 3 years ago, but you didn't emotionally go through the emotional experience of the transition till today. And with step 27 ruling the day, I haven't brought you to this yet, but it's time to take action in our lives. So this is all about taking action, moving forward, and it comes from listening to spirit to know when to take action. And when you do take the action, you're going to be shifting emotional planes, literally. That's a great metaphor for it they're giving me. It's they're giving me the image of planes, because that's what you are. Think of yourself on one airplane and think of yourself flying to a new airplane. Now, during the transition, you'll be in your seatbelt on one, and then God will just suck you up to the new plane, so you will feel a little uncomfortable in that moment. But once you arrive at the new emotional plane, you will feel that you're lighter and freer, and your ears aren't popping anymore. Okay? So this, be prepared, unbuckle your seatbelts and connect to spirit is basically what they're saying. And be prepared to connect and shift to emotional planes. Now the moon is what they also point out to me, which I'm put off with my Zazzle till now, is also trining Neptune in Pisces, which is at step 8 retrograde, which means, as well, all the while it's at this retrograde step 8, we are all redeciding, being the retrograde, deciding being the 8, okay? Our spirit, Pisces, redeciding our spiritual connection and what we believe it is. Now, this may be people believing in themselves for the first time. It depends on how far you are spiritually evolved on the planet, how much spiritual experience you have, basically. So you could be realizing there is a God. You could be talking to God like me and thinking you're crazy. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter. Everyone's got some sort of up, okay? And first we must go down 1 step to go up 2 steps. So we're at that point where we're maybe going down a step to go up 2 steps as far as our spiritual connection. And certainly in the transition of any change in life, spirit is what you hang on to. Because what is absolute in your life is spirit. What is non-absolute is everything you see and call absolute. And they call that the divine dichotomy, my friends. Pluto is at step 13. And Saturn is at step 28, Scorpio. So the moon is heading to Scorpio here. And that means that as you shift, emotional planes, you've still got some altitude to climb. Okay, this is a great metaphor. And you're going to hit step 28 as your final altitude, okay? 28,000 feet. So at 28,000 feet, this is where you feel and decide where you're most comfortable. At that point, take off your shoes. The captain has turned off. There's no smoking sign. And whatever. I'm thinking no smoking. That tells you how old I am. I remember when people used to smoke on planes. It was crazy. And it was so funny, too, remembering when I was a kid, because we'd be going up, and it's like, as soon as they turned off, like, the entire back of the plane was on fire. Like, everyone was crazy. But basically, we get to step 28, and this is the point where you feel like, okay, this is the altitude. This is the altitude I want to fly at all the time. By altitude, I mean this is how I want to feel safe. This is what I decide safety is, and this is where I want to stay. And so it is. Because it said so, I thought so. Okay? And that kind of seals the deal. And what Spirit is showing me is that altitude decision becomes the law of the Pluto and Capricorn land, which means from this point on, in every place in your life, you will seek this altitude. Now, you may be flying higher in this altitude, let's say in one area of your life, like I want to fly in a higher emotional altitude at work or with friends or whatever. And this is the step 28 Saturn, by the way. And again, what's deciding to do it is leaping forward. So the last thing I want to bring up is action. Today, step 27 rules the day. And what that means is that you feel it, the 2, and you sense, the 7, when to act. Or you sense not to act. I have to say that as we're going through this transition of past life, a lot of my action is to not act, to not react, to stop reacting to those things. And that's a lot of my official action on the Akashic record. But today you will take action or reaction for official Akashic record, and you will go racing ahead in the story and feel yourself change emotional altitude. All right, that's all we have today. Thank you so much, my friends. It is a pleasure to be of soul service, and I'll be back tomorrow for your Friday show. Remember to stay in your heart, to listen to your feelings and listen to your senses, and act when it makes sense. I love you, and live, love, be.
So